Hi, and thanks for tuning into my video. My name is Natlee Green, the creator and owner of MyBlackHeritage.com, and in this video we'll be talking about the United States Census Records. The primary function of the United States Census is to collect data about all individuals living in the United States. Mandated by the Constitution, the government started collecting this information in 1790. I was real excited when I first started doing my research to learn about the United States Census. However, that was short-lived when I realized that our Constitution only counted slaves as 3/5 of a person. Therefore, it would be a while before any of the census records would mean anything to someone like me researching African American families. I'll provide a quick timeline of the United States Census and talk about which ones are most important when conducting your African American research. Between 1790 and 1840, only the heads of free households appear in the census records. Unfortunately, slaves in the 1790 through 1840 census were not noted by name, age, sex, or origination. They were only listed statistically under the owner's name. You'll notice that on this 1810 census that the county is listed, the head of household is listed here is Alexander Kincaid, and then each column to the right talks about the free white males from the different age groups from 0 to 10, 10 to 16, 16 to 26, etc. And then the next columns are about the free white females with the same criteria from 0 to 10 years old, 10 to 16 years old, etc. And you'll notice the very last column, it says slaves, and it's just a number. So yeah, you weren't getting whether they were male or female. It's just, we know that Alexander Kincaid had 13 slaves. Beginning in 1850, the census named all free members of the households, white and non-white. The enumerator recorded the person's name, age, sex, place of birth, and the color of each free person in a household. When you take a look at this census from 1850 out of Sumter, South Carolina, you notice that on the first line, the individual that is listed has his age, sex, and color, B is for black, listed. So this was a free black family, or members of a free black family, and if you go ahead and scroll down a bit, you'll notice that on this page there are several free people of color listed by name, age, and sex. In fact, this entire page is a list of black families who were free in the 1850 census. So if you had some ancestors who were free people of color in the 1850 census, you will be able to see the head of household as well as the names, age, and sex of all of the other family members in the household. Additional information recorded is their occupation and their place of birth. While most of the census between 1790 and 1860 were virtually non-helpful to me in my research, the 1870 United States Census was like pure gold. It was like the holy grail of census records. The 1870 census was the first United States census taken after the Civil War. Therefore, it's the first to include all African Americans by name along with the rest of the population, and is often the first official record of a surname for former slaves. This census lists the person's age and place of birth. For 1880 and later, the census shows the relationships within the family of each household. What I'd like to do now is provide an example of how the 1870 United States Census really opened up some doors for me, and hopefully will do the same for you in your research. I already knew through various family members that my great-great-grandmother's name was Mary Jane Harrison, but I didn't know what her maiden name was or her parents' names, and I didn't know what her husband's name was. So in order to fill in the gaps, I went to the 1870 census. When I first came across the 1870 United States Census researching my great-great-grandmother, I was a little skeptical because she was listed as Jane Harrison rather than Mary Jane Harrison, which I had always known her name to be. But when I investigated further, I looked and saw that my great-grandmother, Sarah, was listed, And what was even more exciting about this particular find was that the father, or the head of the household, was listed as Jules Harrison. And I was absolutely sure that this was my family because that is what my grandfather's brother's name was, Jules. And he had a brother named Harrison. And so, upon further research, I noticed that they put Sarah's name as Sarah Gaines instead of Sarah Jane. And that stood out to be somewhat odd to me, but then I noticed that the next door neighbors listed had the last name Gaines. It was also worth noting that the head of the household's name next door was Solomon, which was also one of my grandfather's brother's names, and the wife's name was Sylvia, and I know that my grandfather had an aunt named Sylvania, so it all was just starting to make perfect sense that these were Mary Jane's parents and therefore my great 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 grandparents. I believe that the age differences made sense, and so I stuck with this. After spending some time really looking into this particular census record and then researching all of the new people that I discovered, it did come to pass that these were actually my ancestors. It was an amazing discovery. When I first started, I had only known my great great grandmother's name on that particular line, and after finding the 1870 census, I had found my great great grandfather's name as well as my great 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 set of grandparents. So it's just to show you that the 1870 census may offer more information than you think it might. So please use this tool as often as you can to try to locate different people on your family tree. So again, this video was very brief and just a basic summary of how the United States Census can be used with your research, but I will be posting another video that is a more detailed look at how the United States Census records can be used to confirm and document your family members, and just give the different examples of how it changed over the years. We'll talk about how sometimes it can be difficult to navigate through the United States Census records. One of the things are how some of them are poorly transcribed, or even how the census taker at the time didn't spell names correctly or didn't write down the correct information. Furthermore, for African Americans, it was a bit difficult for the ones who had been previously enslaved, as they didn't know when their birthdays were or weren't sure where their parents were born. So some of that information, can be inaccurate, and while the task can seem to be daunting and overwhelming, sometimes you find some really great information through these census records. And documenting is just one of the steps to really making a solid family tree, and the census records oftentimes provide that documentation that you need to confirm these people's existence and their relationship to you. So hopefully you've subscribed to my YouTube channel by now. If not, I'm here to provide a little incentive for you. I'm having a contest starting today, so anyone who subscribes to my channel between now and February 28th will be entered to win either one of three really great prizes. The first is a full year subscription and membership to Ancestry.com. The second is an Ancestry.com DNA kit. And the third is, well, me. I'm going to do the work for you, discover your family tree, and put it in a report for you with all supporting documentation. So, do it today. All you got to do is hit subscribe and you'll be entered to win. Good luck.